जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवारधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा एवरीवन टुगेदर प्लीज कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जगन्नाथ जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय जय सुभद्रा जय गौरानिताय जगन्नाथ बलदेवा जय भद्र जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज श्रीला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से बोलो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाशादि गौर भक्त श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय गौरनिताय की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय वृंदावन मथुरा मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय गंगा माई यमुना माई जय तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय ताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल Here? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll chant Mangalacharan prayers and then begin. So we'll discuss today verse 13, sorry, chapter 13. Verse 8 to 12. Page number 537. Om अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणम्। So Hare Krishna, we welcome you all to this Bhagavad Gita discussion on Saturday. So we are going to discuss chapter 13, verse 8. So here, this chapter is Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. And here Krishna tells like what is knowledge. So we'll chant this verse and then understand the meaning. You can repeat after me. I'll chant like 2 words and you can repeat. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa shartim arjavam acharyopasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम आत्मा विनिग्रह इंद्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम अनहंकार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुख दोषानुदर्शनम अशक्तिरनाभिष्वंगा पुत्र दारा गृहादिषु नित्यं च समाचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपातिषु मयि चान्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्याभिचारिणी विविक्तादेशा सेवित्वम् अरातिर्जना संसदि अध्यात्म ज्ञान नित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थ दर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानम यद अतो अन्यथा. Anyone wants to read the translation?
I can.
Yes, please.
The purport, right?
Purport, yeah.
Before purport?
No, not the full purport, just the translation. Humility, this whatever is in the book.
Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease. Detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even-mindedness, amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
Okay, thank you. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is the casing made of 24 elements, and the process of knowledge as described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai chanyena yogena bhaktir avibhyacharane. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyati bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarver gunes tatra samshateshu sura. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently sometimes it is found that without understanding the principle of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and so much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5 years old was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. So I will request everyone to read one paragraph. So Prabhu will start from here. Simplicity.
Simplicity means that without diplomacy one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the hidden truth even to an enemy. As for the acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is the representative of Krishna. If he bestows any blessings upon the disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced, without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Shall I go on?
Yeah, next. Yeah.
Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind.
Yes, Parth.
Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is determined to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. The sense should only be gratified to keep the body fit, so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. This will control the eyes. Similarly, the ears should be engaged in hearing about Krishna and the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service. And it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators of Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service.
False ego means accepting the body as oneself. When one understands that he is not his body and is spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there. False ego is condemned, but not real ego. In the Vedic literature, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma, I am spirit. This I am, the sense of self, also exists in the liberated stage of self-realization. This sense of I am is ego. But when the sense of I am is applied to this false body, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, to give up the false identification with the body.
One should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age and disease. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc. are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. This should be discussed. And as far as disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be deceased and no one wants to become old. But there is no avoiding this. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distresses of birth, death, old age and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life.
As for detachment from children, wife, and
That's for detachment, yes.
as for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for these. They are natural objects of affection, but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. one need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These 4 things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one can mold his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these 4 principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounced life. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impotents to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of family life, because in this world, one can never be fully happy or fully miserable.
Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate and advise. In Bhagavad Gita, one can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress, so one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and automatically equiposed in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy, and when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we actually in a spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in 9 processes of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worship, offering respect, and described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. The process should be followed. Naturally, when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he will not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. Naturally, a devotee has to taste for unnecessary sportings or cinema going on, or enjoying some social function, because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject, but according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work or philosophical speculation have no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to the Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophically discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand the self that is recommended here.
As far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that Bhakti Yoga is especially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least not in the Bhakti conception, the devotional conception of life. This service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal, Nityam, that is clearly stated. So Bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is explained. Those who are actually knowers of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in 3 different phases as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the last word in the realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, one should reach up to that platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus engage in the devotional service of the Lord. That is the perfection of knowledge. Beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the Supreme Truth, the Absolute Personality of Godhead. This process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, second floor, third floor. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at the lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most puffed up. Although the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still thinks I am God because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitvam, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth. Very nice, wonderful purport, Srila Prabhupada, our Param Guru. He has explained so wonderfully, right? Everything, all the qualities that we must possess so beautifully. It's amazing.
Biggest verse I read so far.
I think this is the longest.
This one is the most long. The longest.
I think I have not calculated, but looks like, yeah, one of the longest.
These are 4 shlokas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are 4, 5.
But very well explained.
Very nice, very nice. Each and every word is explained very clearly. Whatever questions we have are answered here. So, well, how much time we have now? I think 15-20 minutes, 15 minutes.
15.
So I just want to share a story on this, like how we can actually practically apply these qualities that Krishna is telling that this is knowledge. So this is a pastime I will share, where you will see most of these qualities embedded into this, that how we can basically inculcate and imbibe them. Because ultimately our goal is to please Shri Krishna, Shri Radha Giridhari, chanting the holy names. While we are doing this, what character we should have, that we should live, while we are chanting, like say 2 hours in the morning, how we should live in the 22 hours. How should our character be, with integrity, honesty, and all these qualities, humility, taking shelter of the Guru, and so many different things that are spoken about.
The character of Arjun.
Character of Arjun, yeah. Like that, so he is also Arjun. So yeah, I just want to take all of your blessings, and I'm very happy that we are together here and reading such a wonderful purport from Srila Prabhupada. So I want to share the story of Parashar. Anyone knows who's Parashar? No, Parashar Muni is also there. So this Parashar we are talking about is the successor of Ramaujacharya. If you go in the South India, then Ramaujacharya is one of the great scholars, that Mother India has produced. And there is a huge temple in South India near the Kaveri river that is called Srirangam. There is a huge temple, like one of the largest temples in India. It's like 150 acres big. And there Ramaujacharya is the worshipper of Krishna, and then after him, his successor was Parashar. So he was very intelligent. Parashar was very, very intelligent. He was just like, when he was 5 years old, there was a person who came from, different city, and he was like very arrogant, and he said, nobody can defeat me in debate. He was very arrogant. And then he went to Srirangam and he challenged everybody. Okay, who can, debate with me? Who can defeat me? And I mean, in those days, you won't have like soccer or baseball like today, or cricket to challenge anybody. Debate was the only thing where people would challenge each other. So this person challenged and nobody came forward. And then this Parashar came forward. He was just 5-year-old boy. And he came and he said that, I have a question for you. And this person, started laughing. He said, I am a great scholar. I only accept challenges from people who are equal to me. You are just a small child, 5-year-old. Your mother's breast milk is still on your mouth. Get out of here. So, Parashar was, he was very smart, and he said, if you are a great scholar, then you understand that we are not this body, we are the soul, then why are you making a discrimination between my body and your body? Ultimately, we are all souls. Although I am small, so doesn't matter. Then he picked up some sand in his fist like this, and he said, I have a question. How many grains of sand are there in my fist right now? And this person was bewildered. He couldn't answer it. And then Parashar said that a tree which has fruits is generally bent. Similarly, a person who has knowledge is generally humble. But you are so proud and arrogant. What is the value of that knowledge? If a person who has a lot of knowledge and has no humility and respect for others, then his knowledge is waste. It's of no use. So, and then Parashar explained him, and then ultimately this person, this was coming from a 5-year-old child. Had it come from like his equal, he would have just, gone away or whatever. But since it came from a small child, it actually penetrated his heart. And he really, felt those words, and he said, you are right. I'm too much proud of myself. I'm too egoistic. And he got off his palanquin, and he paid obeisances to Parashar and said, please accept me as a disciple. So this is the quality of Parashar. And then later when Parashar grew up, he had other disciples. And one of the disciples of Parashar asked a question, my dear Guru, my dear spiritual master, I have one question for you. He said, what is the question? He said, the question is, what are the qualities that one should have to truly understand who I am? What are the qualities I should have to truly understand who I am? So here also we are talking about the qualities which start from humility, right? So Parashar was listening to the question, and just to give an example of humility, he said that only the person who is self-realized, he can answer you this. And since I am not self-realized, I cannot answer this question. So he showed his humility, right? He showed that I am not the best, or I can answer everything or whatever. He said that you have to go to Anantacharya. Anantacharya is a sage who lives in Tirupati, which is like 400 miles from here, on top of the hill. So you go to him, he will tell you. And then he goes there, 400 miles. So in those days, this is a true story, which is like 900 years old, 950 years old. In 2017, we celebrated the 1000 years of appearance of Ramaujacharya. 2017, it was 1000 years. So the story is like that, around that old, little few years after that, around 950 years old. So those days, there were no like rickshaw or cars. I mean, obviously, all those things were not there. So he had to walk. So in order to go from Srirangam to Tirupati, he had to cross jungles which were infested with snakes, leopards, lions, tigers. He had to cross the jungle and also cross like 7 mountains. And then finally he reached Tirupati. And in Tirupati he met this sage Anantacharya. And Anantacharya, welcomed him, fed him some prasadam, and then gave him a small hut where he can live. And he was doing some service and listening to classes, his lectures, pravachans, and everything. And then few months passed, 6 months passed actually. And he didn't got his answer from Anantacharya. So when he visited him, he asked this question, but he never got answer till 6 months. And then after 6 months, Anantacharya invited all the people from nearby villages. And there was a festival. And then they made a lot of prasadam, and he asked this disciple, this student, to serve everybody prasadam. So there was a big field, and he was serving prasadam since the morning. First batch, second batch, third batch, like that he was serving prasadam to everyone. And finally at night, when there was nobody in the field, finally this student sat down to take prasadam. The plate was in front of him. And then Anantacharya came. And then he said, if I remember correctly, you had a question. And he was just about to eat. said, if I remember correctly, you have a question. He said, yes, yes. My question is, what are the qualities that I should have so that I can truly understand who I am? So then Anantacharya replied, you should be like a salt, you should be like chicken, you should be like crane, and one should be like you. So he gave this short answer. One should be like salt, chicken, crane, and like you. And then he left. And the student was bewildered, he didn't got a purport or explain. Like Prabhupada gave such a long purport to us, we are able to understand everything. But he didn't give any purport. And the student was like bewildered what to do. And then he packed his bag after taking prasadam, and after, he went back thinking, okay, my Guru Parashar will explain the meaning. And then he started traveling back to 400 miles and, crossing all the mountains and those jungles, and finally he reached Parashar. And Parashar was very excited. He jumped with excitement and said, oh, you are back. Tell me what the great sage Anantacharya told you. Please tell me. I am very excited to hear that. What are the qualities that one should have to truly understand who that person is? And the student said that Anantacharya told me that you should be like salt, chicken, crane, and like me. And I was, very respectfully I agreed to him and then came back. I don't know, I don't understand what it really means. So can you please explain me? And then Parashar said, okay, this answer is so comprehensive. Everything is there in this answer of Anantacharya. He's such a great scholar. He's self-realized. I'm so happy you went there and I got this answer. He said, okay, please explain me what does it really mean. He said salt. What is salt? When you put salt in a preparation, if it is too much, today we are cooking Parth Prabhu, right? If you put too much salt, what will happen to the taste of the dish or whatever? It won't be good. If you put too less, so therefore the salt has to be balanced. He said similarly, a person who wants to perfect his life, to understand who he is, his life should be very balanced. He should not eat too much, he should not eat too less. He should not sleep too much, he should not sleep too less. He should balance his work, his recreation. He should balance his time for his family, for the society, and for his own self. Right? He should balance all those things. Krishna also tells the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita in 6th chapter. Yukta ahar viharasya yukta karma cheshtasu yukta swapna bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. That for a yogi, yukta ahar viharasya, his food, his recreation, karma cheshtasu, his work, swapna bodhasya, sleeping, all these things should be balanced. Second quality of salt. Second quality of salt is, it is invisible. Once you put the salt in a preparation, can you see the salt? You cannot see the salt. It's invisible. What does that mean? A yogi, a person like that, is not working for his recognition. If somebody is serving the Lord or serving family, he's not trying to show that, okay, I am great and I am doing everything for you and, all of you are dependent on me. No, he's working in the background, just trying to please the Lord. So that is because he understands that ultimately everything that I am doing is happening because of the energy of Krishna, this consciousness, this soul. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the intelligence of the intelligent. Right? The intelligence is coming from Krishna. People are like, immediately they get mad. Like I have a doctor friend, he was telling me in America, when they turn teenager or in anywhere in the world, right? Teenager, any place, suddenly something happens, they lose their mind, something happens, right? Why it happens? We don't know. So, there's so many problems. Krishna says, so Krishna is giving us the intelligence that we are able to work, we are able to do so many things. If we claim that, okay, I did everything, then that is wrong. We should give credit, obviously, to everyone who is behind that. So that is the quality of a yogi. Third quality of salt is, when you put salt in a sabji or some dish, what happens? It gets dissolved, it gets merged. It doesn't distinguish, oh, this is paneer sabji, I don't want to mix in this. This is dal, I don't know. It gets mixed in everything. Similarly, for us, we try to distinguish people on the basis of country or state. Oh, he's from Mumbai, he's from Delhi, or he's from, this place, that place, he's of this color, and he's from this religion, he's from that religion. So Saul teaches us that if we are trying to have true and loving relationship with anybody, then we should rise above this ego. Prabhupada also tells the ego that I am this, I am a PhD scholar, I have more money than him. We have to rise above all these things to have true loving relationship with Krishna, with God, and with all the people around us. Right? We have to go beyond this ahankar, the ego, that I am the best. So that is the third quality of the salt. And now he says chicken. What is the quality of chicken? Suppose there is a heap of garbage. So the chicken will go there, and from that heap of garbage, it will only pick out like nutritional seeds, whatever is good, and it will leave the rest garbage. It won't eat the garbage. So that is the quality of chicken. So similarly, for this person, how he behaves is, he will only look at good quality in others. He will not look at the negative qualities. He is Saragrahi. He'll take out the essence. So generally, people only try to look at the negative qualities, but like when we try to point one finger on somebody, 3 fingers are on us, And similarly, the Guru of Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, he would say that when I am finding fault in others, it means I myself am honeycombed with these faults. So, but if somebody has faults, obviously everybody has faults. There is nobody who doesn't have faults. But we should not try to prove that we are better than you, or try to condescend the other person who has done some fault or who has any fault. But if we truly want to help him, if we truly want to help that person, then we help him in such a way that it uplifts him, it helps him in that fault, and not try to put him down. Right? So that is the right approach, how to handle others' fault. There is a beautiful book with this title, Disapprove but not Disowe, by Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. Very nice book. So we may disapprove, we may not agree on certain things like, okay, this thing should be done like that way. But it doesn't mean we disowe each other. Hare Krishna. Third quality of a person who wants to truly understand who he is he should be like a crane. What does a crane do? Anyone has seen a crane? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. No, not the crane, the animal crane. Yeah. Patience, okay. Yeah, very nice. You have seen a crane, nice. Stands on one leg. Focused, yes. So crane generally stands on one leg in the water, and it keeps watching the fishes. And it sees like tens of fishes passing by and hundreds of fishes passing by. And he keeps looking. And as soon as the crane sees a big fish, immediately it will pounce on it and eat it. So what is the lesson from crane that a yogi can learn? Can anyone guess? Patience, okay.
Go after the big things.
Okay, very good point. Go after the big things. Anything else? You had the same thing? Go after big things? Okay, nice. So yeah, so we focus, like patience is there, and then focus on the important things in life. There may be so many, distractions are in life. There are so many things that are going in our life, but we have to remain focused on the most important things in our life. What is most important for us? Yeah, exactly. Because our tendency of the mind is to just see the small things as the only thing in life, you know. We make a mountain out of a pebble. If we don't have a higher goal, a higher principle, what will happen? The small things will seem big for us. Those will become our goals. Therefore, we should have only, focus on our big goal, which is to focus on our spiritual lives, to understand who am I, what is the purpose of my life, who is God, and why am I here? All these questions. This is a big thing in life. This is a big fish. I'm not advocating you to eat fish. We do not eat fish, but it's just a example. So, yeah, to focus, because the tendency of the mind is to magnify, small fight, with our loved ones or with anyone, small thing is there and we start fighting over it. I just remembered a small story about this. Can I share? There is in the Sequoia National Park, north of here, there is the oldest tree, one of the oldest tree, which is 2200 years old. That is called the General Sherman tree. And there was a bunch of students who went there, and everybody was asked that, what do you think that this tree is thinking right now? Because it's so old. What would be the tree thinking right now? So some said, oh, it is like over 2000 years old, and it would say, oh, I have seen Jesus, I am before Jesus Christ, and and some would say, I have seen so many wars, World War II, World War I, and civil rights movement, and so many different things. But there was one girl who was like crying. So everybody was excited, eager to know like why she's crying, what are her thoughts. And she said that the tree must be thinking, because it is looking at all of us. We have a short lifespan, 60, 70, 80, whatever, or sometimes we don't know when we will die. We don't know. She said that time is so precious. Still these human beings, those people who are living on earth, they waste their life